Hey there, pirates! Welcome aboard the Anime No Me channel. Shanks was a spy for Imu-sama and Roger's crew. More terrifying than real. So hit that like and subscribe because I'm going to explain why. I hope for your support to help our crew win, and to do so, you just need to click the thumbs up button, leave a like, and subscribe to the channel. By doing this, you will win an incredible devil fruit, so just comment which fruit you want. Guys, imagine the scene. In an epic confrontation during the final arc, maybe at Laugh Tale, or during the war against the world government, Shanks, with his crooked smile and billowing black cloak, faces Luffy and drops the bomb. Boy, I wasn't just a pirate on the Oro Jackson. I was the eyes of Imu-sama, embedded in Roger's crew to report every move. Luffy, eyes wide and straw hat tilted, laughs first. Ha ha ha, Shanks, you're joking? You gave me this hat! But the weight drops like an anchor when Shanks reveals a faded scar on his lost arm, the mark of the abyss, a secret symbol of loyalty to Imu, the invisible ruler of the empty throne revealed in chapter 1085. This mark, a black vortex that pulses like Imu's shadows, was tattooed on Shanks into adulthood, proof that he was planted to monitor threats like Roger, who was closing in on the secret of the Void Century in chapter 967. The theory comes to life with clues scattered throughout the manga. From chapter 1, Shanks appears as the perfect mentor, saving Luffy from a Sea King and giving him the straw hat. But what if it was all calculated? In chapter 1158, flashbacks from God Valley show Shanks as a baby rescued by Dragon, but his brother Shamrock, introduced as a mysterious figure alongside the world government in chapter 1160, suggests a family split. Shamrock, captured by the God Knights during the chaos on the island, could have been trained to remain loyal to Imu, while Shanks, hidden by Roger, became the infiltrating spy. Think about it. Shanks, with his supernatural calm and supreme haki that intimidates even admirals in chapter 1054, always knew more than he let on. He stops the Marineford War in chapter 580, not out of kindness, but to manipulate the balance, reporting to Imu about Luffy's potential as Joy Boy, the sun god Nika revealed in chapter 1044. But Shanks' regret is the heart of this story. In chapter 1, he loses his left arm to the Sea King while saving Luffy, the arm that carried the mark of the abyss, a seal that pulsed like Imu's darkness, perhaps a tracking or mind control device similar to the one used on the Seraphim in chapter 1100. Shanks could have used Conqueror's haki to repel the beast, as he does against Green Bull years later, but he chooses not to. Why? To literally cut ties with Imu. By letting the monster bite his marked arm, Shanks frees himself from the Dark King's yoke, sacrificing the limb to protect the boy he sees as the true hope against the system that enslaved him. It's fun to imagine Imu on the empty throne, feeling the mark fade and growling, "Shanks, you red-haired traitor, you chose the rubber brat." This betrayal makes sense with Shanks' past. In chapter 434, Whitebeard calls him Roger's grandson, but clues in chapter 1158 hint at noble origins, perhaps a renegade celestial dragon or son of Garling, the traitor of the red-haired mother in chapter 1160. Embedded in Roger's crew by Emu's orders, Shanks reports secrets of the Void Century, like the true history of Laugh Tale in chapter 968, but upon seeing Roger's joy and the crew's free spirit, he doubts. Dragon's rescue in chapter 1160, revealed as the moment baby Shanks escapes the God Knights, plants seeds of rebellion. Dragon, the revolutionary, becomes Imu's counterpoint, and Shanks, raised by Roger, begins to question his loyalty. Fast forward to the recent arcs. In chapter 1079, Shanks defeats Kid with a single strike, showing power rivaling Imu's. But why doesn't he go after One Piece? Because as a spy, he knew Imu was watching him through the mark of the abyss, a seal that might transmit visions or commands, similar to Kuma's control in chapter 1100. By losing his arm in chapter 1, Shanks breaks the link, gaining freedom to guide Luffy without interference. In chapter 1054, he intimidates Green Bull to protect Ryokugyu, perhaps knowing the Admiral is a pawn of Imu and wanting to give Luffy time to grow. Shamrock enters as the Dark Mirror in chapter 1160, rescued by Dragon but separated in the chaos. He ends up with the world government, perhaps as a God Knight or CP0 agent loyal to Imu. While Shanks betrays, Shamrock remains faithful, creating a fraternal conflict that Luffy resolves. In chapter 1086, Ivankov speaks of ancient saints. Shamrock could be one, marked by the abyss from birth, in contrast to Shanks, who frees himself. Shanks' revelation as a former spy would come in a confrontation with Shamrock, perhaps in Elbaf chapter 1120+, where Shanks confesses to Luffy, "I was Amu's eyes on the Oro Jackson, reporting every secret of Roger. But when I saw you, boy, I knew I had to cut ties." Literally. This regret transforms Shanks from infiltrating villain to redeemed hero. In chapter 434, he warns Buggy about special origins, his own, tied to Imu via the mark. Losing his arm in Chapter 1 was no accident. It was a declaration of independence, the moment Shanks chooses Luffy over Imu, betting on the rubber brat as the joy boy who topples the empty throne. In Chapter 967, Roger laughs knowing secrets. Perhaps he knew of Shanks' infiltration and forgave him, seeing in him a future ally against the Celestial Dragons. The theory deepens with visuals. The mark of the abyss, described as a black vortex on Shanks' lost arm, echoes Imu's powers in Chapter 1085 with shadows that devour islands. Marked from youth, perhaps implanted by the God Knights in God Valley, Chapter 1160. Shanks uses the arm as a channel to report to Imu about One Piece. By sacrificing it, he cuts the umbilical cord with the Dark King, gaining freedom to protect Luffy. Imagine Imu watching through the mark as Shanks loses the arm. This redhead betrayed everything for a hungry kid? Shamrock, alongside the government, becomes the counterpoint. In Chapter 1160, separated during the rescue, he is raised loyal to Imu, perhaps with an intact mark, making him an antagonist Shanks and Luffy must face together. In Chapter 1059, Shanks mentions old friends, perhaps Dragon, the Savior, or Shamrock, the lost brother. This family dynamic elevates Shanks' betrayal. He spied on Roger for Imu, but the pirate's free spirit converts him, culminating in the arm sacrifice in Chapter 1. In the final arc, Shanks reveals everything to Luffy. I was Imu's spy, but when I saw you laugh like Nika, I knew the true sun was you, not the shadows of the throne. This confession, based on the lost mark and the brother in the government, turns mentorship into redemption, with Shanks dying to protect Luffy against Shamrock or Imu, stealing his betrayal in Chapter 1115. Vegapunk warns of the world sinking. Shanks' revelation links God Valley to the end, with him as the spy who chose the light. This theory paints Shanks as a repentant double agent, whose mark of the abyss on his lost arm was a symbol of slavery to Imu. In Chapter 434, he stops wars to manipulate events, but after his sacrifice, he becomes Luffy's genuine guardian. Shamrock, loyal to the government, becomes the villain who forces Shanks to choose biological brother or adoptive. In Chapter 1086, Imu's control over minds echoes through the mark. Shanks severs it brutally, proving that even spies can rebel. One Piece loves redemption. Ace dies for Luffy. Chapter 576, Sabo returns as a revolutionary. Chapter 672, Shanks, revealing his espionage, becomes the mentor who betrayed everything out of love for the boy. In Chapter 967, Roger trusts Shanks despite suspicions, perhaps knowing about the mark and seeing potential for betrayal for the greater good. This theory, from the rescue to the sacrifice, makes Shanks the pivot of the final game, with his revelation shaking alliances and guiding Luffy to One Piece as the true savior. Think about the emotional impact. Luffy, upon learning the truth, laughs, "Shanks, you were a spy, but you saved me. That's being a pirate." Shamrock, as the antagonist, screams, "Oh, you betrayed Imu for this clown?" The battle becomes a family affair, with Shanks sacrificing himself so Luffy can defeat both his brother and Imu. In Chapter 1054, Shanks' hockey intimidates. Imagine him using it against Shamrock, honoring Dragon's rescue in Chapter 1160. This connection turns One Piece into a saga of betrayals and redemptions, with Shanks as the spy who chose the sun over the shadow. In the end, Shanks' regret is poetic. Losing his marked arm in Chapter 1 is the act that severs ties with Imu, betting on Luffy as Joy Boy. Shamrock, still marked intact, becomes the reminder of what Shanks escaped. This theory elevates Shanks from Yonko to a tragic character whose past as a spy leads him to guide Luffy to his destiny. In Chapter 1115, the world begins to sink. Shanks' revelation accelerates Luffy's victory over Imu's abyss. This storyline fits Oda's style, layered villains like Doflamingo, Chapter 698, and mentors with secrets like Rayleigh, Chapter 507. Shanks, with his enigmatic smile, hides a dark past, revealed as a repentant spy. The brother in the government adds drama, with Shamrock as the redhead of shadows, contrasting the redhead of freedom. In Chapter 1160, Dragon's rescue ties it all together. Shanks, saved, betrays Imu out of gratitude, losing his arm to free himself. The revelation would occur in Elbaf or Laugh Tale, with Shanks confessing, "I was watching Roger for Imu, but you, Luffy, showed me the true sun." Luffy responds with a friendly punch, "It doesn't matter, Shanks, you're my brother now." Shamrock, as the villain, forces a choice, culminating in a battle that echoes God Valley. This theory turns One Piece into an epic of broken and rebuilt bonds, with Shanks' regret at the heart. In Chapter 967, Roger laughs knowing about betrayals. Perhaps he knew about Shanks and forgave him, seeing in him the guardian of Nika. This layer makes Shanks the most complex character, whose sacrifice in Chapter 1 is his ultimate act of redemption. The brother in the government becomes the catalyst. Shamrock, loyal to Imu attacks Shanks, forcing Luffy to intervene as Joy Boy. In chapter 1044, Nika awakens. Shanks, witnessing this, dies happily, knowing he betrayed the right cause. This narrative elevates betrayal to an art form. Shanks, marked by the abyss until losing his arm, severs ties with Imu to bet on Luffy. In chapter 1085, Imu's power devours. Shanks' free guides the god who devours darkness with light. Shamrock, still marked intact, represents what Shanks escaped, creating a fraternal conflict that Luffy resolves with laughter. This theory, inspired by the rescue and the lost mark, makes Shanks the spy who chose family. That was today's content. We hope you liked it and want to share your opinion on the subject. Don't forget to share the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and stay amazing.